Hi, this is Devin Sizemore, author of the Connection Expansion book, and also partner with Million Dollar Author. On my episode for the Business Growth Architect Show, I talk about the power and the need for real and authentic relationships, which is something that we're missing in this information-packed, AI-driven world today. Yet when you figure out how to do it strategically and focus on others, it unlocks so much for you and your business, and more importantly, for your personal life when and if you need something from your network. If you want to learn the systems, strategies, and thought processes to build your impactful and meaningful network, head over and listen to the episode now.
And hello, fabulous person. Beate Gillette here. I am the host of the Business Growth Architect Show, and I want to welcome you to today's episode where we discuss how to navigate strategy and spirituality to achieve time and financial freedom. Truly successful people have learned how to master both, a clear intention and a strategy to execute that in a spiritual practice that will help them to stay in alignment and on purpose. Please enjoy the show and listen to what our guest today has to say about this very topic.
Welcome back. This is Beate Gillette, your host for the Business Growth Architect Show, and today we're talking to Devin Sizemore. And Devin is from the Million Dollar Author. And what I love about this guest today is that he's going to share with you how to network and build up a network the right way. And the reason this matters so much and why it matters to me is because if I did not have this network when my house burned down and my community didn't step in and literally fed me with a spoon when I was unable to eat or have a place, shelter, or food, I would have been in deep, deep trouble. So I must have done something consciously or subconsciously, but Devin's going to give you the exact steps today. Devin, I'm excited to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to this conversation.
Excellent. So for somebody who does not know who you are or what you do, tell us what you do and what problem do you solve for your clients?
Yeah, so I always start with I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've owned a lot of different companies and worked with hundreds of businesses. And I share that just to say, like, my passion is business. I love helping people. I love business and I love the art of business. In that, I wear two hats. So the first is with Million Dollar Author, which is the brand I'm wearing. We help people write, publish, and promote books to create more authority and attract more right fit clients. And then the second hat I wear is with my book, Connection Expansion, where I help people build million-dollar networks strategically.
Excellent. So let's dive into this idea of network. Your network is your net worth. There are a lot of networking clubs out there where you meet people. Is all networking the same type of networking?
I'm trying to think about
You know what I mean? It's like me going into like a BNI, right? A very specifically designed networking program that follows a very specific strategy. Is that the same as other networking? Like, is there a better networking way than another? Is that bad or good networking?
Yeah, so it's such a fun question because my approach to networking is exactly the same, whether it's a coffee shop, a business event, speaking on a stage, or a birthday party. I approach it the exact same. However, the environments may force us into different styles of networking with different metrics and goals. And that may then force people to get out of their plan and try to adapt to whatever environment they're in, which may not be as effective as it could be.
I said in the introduction that if it wasn't for my network and for my community, I would have been in deep trouble when my house burned down. I don't think that I looked at it as having built myself a network. Is a network that I built, is it better to like be deliberate about this, or is it an attitude when you go in?
Yeah, very few people are strategic in how they build their network. It's something that just happens over time. It's something that you stumble through, and yet it can still yield results, right? So it can be there when you need it, when you haven't asked for your business, or in your case, when you have a personal ask and you really need support in a moment of either desperation or something's just falling apart, or like we were talking about before we hit record, right? When my dad passed, my mom's network surrounded her, right? Was her network intentional? No. But did it provide the results she was looking for in a moment of need? Yes. And so I think that it's both. I think that there is a way to tactically and strategically grow it so you can get more out of it. And then there is an innate ability in most of us to just create community and have some relationships that can be there when you need them.
How do I do it? How do I go about it? So let's say, Devin, I'm an introvert. And the entire point of going out and, just talking to people randomly scares me. What do I do?
Yeah, great question. So I prefer talking to and working with introverts. So let's say that first. So if you're listening to this or watching this and you're an introvert, congrats.
Yay! It's your lucky day.
As an extrovert, you tend to talk too much, which actually is a disservice when networking. And so what I recommend is I ask the same 4 questions when I network. I teach people to ask the same 4 questions, and rarely, if ever, do I deviate, because it gives me confidence in the conversation and it will give you confidence in the conversation as well. So often people stumble through networking with this, how's the weather? What do you do? And then they don't really know where to go from there. That's kind of like the beginning and the end of a conversation. And so I'm going to give you the 4 questions and kind of explain why I ask them. And this will empower any of you to be a great networker. And again, you could ask these questions at a birthday party, a coffee shop, or a business networking event. So I always start with, what do you do? If you're trying to do networking for business, it's kind of nice to know what the person you're talking to does. The next thing I ask is, how long have you been doing that? That's going to tee up our 3rd question. But we want to know, are they new to what they're doing, or is this something they've done for a long period of time? If they've been doing it for less than a year, we always ask, hey, what'd you do before? Because we want to know what their previous network and authority is. If they've been doing it more than a year, we make a statement that says, hey, that's awesome. You must love what you do. They're then going to answer one of 2 ways. They're either going to say, yes, I love what I do, and talk passionately about it. Or they're going to say something like, you know what, I'm stuck. And then they're going to talk to you about why they feel stuck. Both of which are deep relationship conversations by 3 questions. And the last question I always ask is, who's a great connection for you, or how can I help you? Because we want them to understand that we're others focused and we're on a mission to add value to them, because that's really what they care about. And that will then unlock our ability to follow up and book a meeting with them.
I like this a lot. I've never heard that part is, wow, if you've been doing this for 5 years, you must be super passionate about it and really love it. And then people are either going to light up, you're absolutely correct, or they go and they tell you all their pain points, which is a very important information in a sales conversation. Can we talk about, Devin, now, if I have identified a need for myself, how can I ask? How can I put this out to my network and ask? Because we are taught not to ask. We are taught to not ever need anybody. We are taught to give but not receive. What do you tell your clients or the people you work with?
Yeah, so that is a great approach. And it is great to want to be a giver, to want to help others. But there are moments where you need your network to react. And so first, give yourself permission to ask. It is okay as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a human being to ask for help, support, clarity, advice. All those things are needed. And you can't know it all or do it all. So please just give yourself grace and permission. Second, you have to make sure that you've been adding value to your network. And what I mean by that is, when you're building relationships, you need to be making connections. You need to be providing resources. You need to be sending things to provide clarity or overcome obstacles. You have to be the one showing your network, hey, I'm here for you. And you have to show that by example. One of my core principles is train by doing, right? So we want to train our network by doing what we want our network to do. At some point, we're going to want our network to react to either a business offer, positioning for our product or service, or some other need we have. If you've done that, your network will then react quickly because they're so used to, man, you know what? Devin has added a ton of value. Let me take this call. A prime example of that we talked about in the pre-recording was I had to deal with the custody issue. It became an emergency really quick. And I had to find a family law attorney who would take a consultation with me the same day. And in the next 24 to 48 hours, draft an emergency order and get it to the court. And anyone who knows anything about attorneys, that's almost an impossible ask, right? Like trying to find an attorney who will take a meeting with you and execute on the meeting in 24 to 48 hours. Like it's not practical.
On the single most emotional issue a parent can face.
100%. Yeah. In a highly emotional time where all logic is pretty much gone.
Yeah.
I was able to reach out to a few attorneys in my network. One happened to be my business attorney, and just say like, hey, this is what I need. It's an emergency. Who do you have? They answered my call because I add value to them. They then send me 3 introductions, a direct text to the direct cell phone of the other attorneys, and said, hey, this is my friend Devin. He's an amazing client. He's in an emergency. I need you to answer. I was able to call. I spoke to all 3. The second person I talked to was a perfect fit. And she, before I was done talking to the third person, had already sent me an agreement and a draft of what I needed before I've even signed the agreement or put a retainer on file. That all happened because my network is responsive when I need it. But that foundational work to make that happen, right, is years in the making.
Devin, you said something really powerful. You said it's taken you years to do this. Do you have any principles that you can share around building relationships? I will share one that my dad told me a long time ago. He said, before you tell somebody to bleep off, make sure you never see them, meet them, or need them again.
Yes. It's so true. I love that.
Simple enough.
In my book, Connection Expansion, there are 5 principles I talk about. So let's talk about the 5 because we've mentioned one, right, which is train by doing. And so if you want your network to do something, which in my book's case is to generate connections or referrals for us, you need to then make connections and give referrals. But anything you want from your network, you need to show by example. The other 4 principles are, first, always add value. So you need to always be the one adding value. We've kind of hit that a little bit as well, but that's connections, resources, solving problems, connecting people, anything and everything you can do that's not your product or service to add value to others. The next is never make assumptions about a connection. So when you get introduced to someone, never, ever make an assumption about them. You don't know them. You don't know who they know. And you can't put them in a profile bucket instantly. You have to be curious and you have to have the conversation. The next is to take a meeting with everybody, which really goes with that. It's kind of that don't judge a book by its cover philosophy, because again, you don't know. And then the last is control what you can control. So often in networking, business development, sales, and marketing, we benchmark our success on things we actually can't control, which is not ever going to work because you can't control half the things you think you're trying to set yourself up for. So you need to control the parts of the process you can control. And if you go about building your network value focused, not judging anyone and controlling what you can control, you will start to see you're receiving more connections, you're meeting more amazing people, and your network is way more responsive when you ask it to do something than it probably is now.
As I have been now the recipient of this avalanche of support that I didn't really know I had, and I didn't really know I had built it. But I had followed the giving or contributing and not being so stuck up about the results, right? Oftentimes when I speak to someone, my super skill of seeing what makes them unique or different, which is why I'm a podcast host, comes through, and then I'll just blurt it out and tell them. Now, that's stuff that I probably could charge for. So, and then I feel afterward going, should I have said that? So do you think that we need to worry about that? Is it measured giving, or should we just be reckless and free and give as much as we can? How do you handle that?
Yeah, so let me make one comment on something you shared there that I think is brilliant as well. The measuring, is something we never do. Now, I have statistics for everything.
Oh, go
And
ahead. I want to hear all of that.
and so I say don't measure it, but then I do track it all. And so what I mean by that is so often we're tracking what you're receiving, right? And what you're getting back. But again, you can't control that because I can't dictate other people's behaviors. So when I look at the control what you can control aspect, it's how many events did I get to? Did I actually get out of the car and go to the event? How many new contacts did I make at the event? Of those contacts, how many did I follow up with? Of the ones I followed up with, how many did I book meetings with? Of the ones I booked meetings with, how many did I follow up with? How many did I make connections with? How many did I add value to? How many did I then nurture long term? All of those things I can track and I can benchmark my success against. And so those are the metrics we're tracking. And I know that if I make 100 connections, I'm going to receive about 30% back. So if I make 100, I would expect I'll receive 30 connections back. It's very, very stable prediction. Now, the more mature your network gets, the better those results will be. When you're first starting, it might be a 10-to-1 ratio. It might be 10% of your network, which is still great. But again, don't worry about what comes back. Track your activity and make sure you're doing enough to actually justify receiving. The other thing that you said, and I want to hit on, is don't gatekeep anything. So often people are so worried about oversharing and getting away the keys. Now, in my book, Connection Expansion, is the one on the top here behind me, I give everything. Every script I use, the follow-up sequence, the timing, the voicemail message, it is all in the book. There are 2 videos online that go in detail about the whole process. Why do I share it all? Because I want you to have it. And if you're a DIYer or you're tight on money and that's all you can afford to capture the knowledge to implement, I don't want to stop you. I want to empower you to go on that journey. Now, my best clients are not DIYers. They're going to read it and go, hey, Devin, I believe in your philosophy. Thank you for providing the value and the information. Now, how do we work together? And that's great. So share everything, give with an abundance mindset, and track the metrics you can control.
Does this follow the principle of releasing the best song of the new album first? Because if the first song of the album is so good, you go like, oh my God, I wonder what else is on it.
Yeah, it's a great analogy. So yes, I want to give you so much value so quick that you can't help but lean in and go, man, if this is how he follows up, if this is how he makes connections and adds value, and I'm not even paying him, imagine what his service offering looks like. Imagine how good the product is. And no matter who you are, and I've worked with realtors, financial advisors, and billionaires, it's the same equation. Because if they perceive you as highly valuable and you deepen your relationship quickly, it makes them innately curious about what else you have to offer. And most of the time, they'll ask you.
How do you deepen the relationship quickly?
Yeah, so it all starts with the networking, which we've talked about, right? So
Yes.
all the questions I asked are about the other person. It's nothing about your elevator pitch. We didn't go there. It's nothing about how to talk about benefits versus features around your product or service. I didn't mention any of that because I want you to ask 4 questions. I want you to get their business card and I want you to capture their contact info. You can control all of that. How you follow up is critical. Your follow-up email should sound something like this. Hey, it was great meeting you at the event. I enjoyed briefly learning about you and your business. I'd love to schedule a time to learn more about you and your business so that I can make some strategic connections for you. Here's a link to my calendar. I look forward to talking to you. Everything about that email, 1, where we met, why I want to meet you, and it's all about the other person. It's not, hey, it was great meeting you. You expressed briefly this random thing, and I want to sell you a house. Look, what?
Oh, here's my favorite one. Here's my favorite. Your profile is interesting. You sound like an interesting person. Let's put our heads together and see where our synergies are.
Yeah, and then the next thing that happens is they sell you something. Like if you wait long enough, the next message is, hey, by the way, I see you want this or need that.
Yes. I mean, I think the in-person networking, I love the idea of less is more is what I'm hearing. So
yeah, and even for LinkedIn, if you're going to send a message, send the one you sent, but don't send anything else. People can't help themselves. Like they want so bad to start selling and positioning and doing all these things, and you don't need to do any of that. I use
So
the same.
how do you take them through the LinkedIn then? Are you taking them to a personal conversation before you do anything else?
Yeah. Unless they raise their hand for me to sell to them, I'm always just doing connecting. And so this goes to the first meeting. My first meeting, I call it a connection meeting on purpose. It is just a get to know you meeting. And I want 80% of the time for the other person to talk, 20% of the time for me to talk. Because I want to learn about them so that I can start to understand how to help them and how to add value. Because that goes back to how do we strengthen and deepen relationships? Well, I have to get to know the other person. They have to perceive me as a listener. And then I have to be able to add value to them. And when I add value by making connections, I do a couple other strategic things. I'm going to edify them in the introduction. So that validates I listened and that I'm talking highly about them. And then I'm going to endorse them to the person I'm connecting them with. So not only saying, hey, they're great at this and this is what they do, I'm then endorsing them, both parties to each other, saying, here's why you need to meet. You're a rock star, you're a rock star. You're targeting women, you're targeting women. You're going after these profiles, you should have a strategic conversation. All of these little things, when we're others focused, when we're adding value, when we're structuring the conversation correctly, and we're not selling and defaulting to that mode, deepen the relationship quicker because their guard never goes up. Whereas as soon as you start using sales language, especially on LinkedIn, and you go past the simple message to all of these little sales pitches or, hey, I reviewed your stuff and this is what I see, which is unsolicited advice. Please don't do that. And then you're trying to nurture a relationship. Their guard is already up. Like there's so many barriers between you and a deep connection. Whereas if we just have simple conversations and we add value, there's no barriers.
How honest are you in these conversations? And again, this is a self-serving and probably leading question here, but I have really found that specifically since I've been through this apocalypse, that the honesty of not knowing all the answers actually seems to really resonate. That this polished showing up doesn't do as much as I thought. How do we actually need to show up? Because we want to show up as strong, as a potential business partner. But you are saying if you're an expert or you're positioning yourself as an expert, you already are. So I feel like I need more answers from you or a line of explanation. You know what I mean, Devin, where I'm getting to?
Yeah, for sure. So I think the first part of that is if you're not comfortable in what you're wearing and what you're talking about and how you're positioning and your answers, there's probably a disconnect, right? So you're probably trying to force yourself into an appearance or an answer or a profile type that doesn't actually resonate with who you are. And that disconnect, people will notice. They're going to notice you're uncomfortable. They're going to notice everything sounds scripted and that you're not having genuine conversations. And so the best thing you can do is be open and honest. I do a lot of consulting with young, and young either means age or young in your profession. And the first thing I tell them is just be honest. If someone asks you a hard question, the best answer is to go, you know what? That's an amazing question. I haven't had to field that yet. Hey, can I take that note down and follow up with you? Would that be okay? That sounds so much more professional than trying to BS your way through some random answer, right? It's the same in the finance world. We do a lot of work there and everyone shows up in their suits and wears their Rolexes and tries to position their wealth, which is interesting because if you're managing my money, I don't want you to show me that it looks like you're making a bunch. I want to be a real person, right? Like I want to show.
Oh, I'm paying you so much you can drive a Bentley, really?
Yeah, like, but for some reason, there's industries where that's become the norm. I would much rather that my realtor shows up or my financial shows up professional, right? Like a polo and some slacks or nice jeans and a nice shirt and is put together. And we're focused on the knowledge. We're focused on the value they drive. I want to see how they ask questions. I want to see how they investigate and how they discover what I need, not just sell me something. And so to go back to your kind of core question, you have to be authentic. Like I can't, none of this works if you're putting on a facade, right? So you've got to get aligned with your values, right? You've got to understand your North Star. And then all of that should be fueling your why and why you're even going through this process. And if you don't understand that narrative about yourself, you got to figure that out, because when you're meeting people and they ask like, well, that's an interesting industry, why are you in it? Your answer needs to be something that's real, because that's what people want. It's the same for social media. The best social posts are usually the ones that aren't polished. They're usually the ones that you hit record in a car or hit record behind the scenes, because people want to see and experience real. When we had our cat cafe, the best social posts were the behind the scenes. Here's what's going on. Here's us setting up. Here's the reality of the situation, right? That's what people want. And so if you can bring that into your networking conversations or your connection meetings and be that real and authentic there, it's only going to amplify it.
Yeah, I like this a lot because I do feel that we are also in a time where the external messaging is so insane that people are actively searching for messages that sound real, because people have gotten very smart, especially with all the internet marketing language. They know what's BS and what's not. They already know. Like I already can tell by the way the opening line in LinkedIn is what the next message is, if there's even a second message, because most of them now selling in the introduction, right? I'm the growth architect. It's amazing to me how many people say, well, we help architects and interior designers. And I'm like, your outreach sucks.
So true.
Do you think that in reference to internet marketing and outreach, do you think that there's a shift in general in the way we need to connect with each other? Or is it business as usual and the stacks of cash, airplanes, all of that still works, but then this now is started as a counter movement? What's happening overall? Is there a trend that we can predict or see?
Yeah. So I think that, and I had an agency for many years, and so I love that space. And what worked then that was good still works now. But what I say, what was good, right? So good quality content still works, right? Authentic branding and imaging still works. Authentic messaging, real case studies, real testimonials, real people still works. Showcasing your team and talking about them and edifying them still works. Now, the showboating stuff, yes, it still works in certain industries, but it works in transactional industries where there's no lifetime value of a customer, right? You're expecting them to buy something quickly, possibly not leave you reviews, and probably doesn't want to engage with you. But I play mainly in the B2B world where I may have a client who's been with me for 8 years. So I'm looking to nurture forever. I do a presentation at the couple colleges near me every semester, and it's all about marketing. And in there, I go through the connection strategy, right? So this is how we build relationships. Here's how we shift our ask. Here's how we position ourselves in the 5 principles. And then I challenge them to look at how they could change that and pull it back into their marketing. How do we become more authentic? How do we lean towards user-generated content? How do we engage in a very real way? And if you can solve these things and align your strategies with it, you will plant the seed for a longer customer life cycle and a longer customer relationship. In the world of AI and information overload, there is this craving right now for community and real connections and real people. I don't think there's ever been a better time in society to be the person that raises your hand and says, hey, that's me and I care about you. You should be on the forefront of that. If you're not, you're going to get left behind sometime soon.
Oh, yeah. Powerful, really powerful. For somebody, Devin, now who has listened to the show and either wants to find out how working with you and doing the book can help them or learn all your secrets, where do we send them, Devin?
Yeah, so first you can grab a copy of my book, Connection Expansion. It's on Amazon, ebook, paperback, hardcover, or an audiobook if you want to listen to me talk for an hour and 54 minutes. I will walk you through the exact system and process. You can always find me on my website, devinsizemore.com, DEVIN, sizethenmore.com. All of my links, trainings, videos, and anything and everything you can want are on there. And then in the book world, it's milliondollarauthor.io. And yes, we didn't talk too much about books, but a book is a great tool to help you create your authority, tell your story, and attract more clients. Love to see if it's a fit for you.
Excellent. And if you are networking and you happen to have a book, that is a great tool to deepen the connection even faster and further quicker by handing out your books to or sending them as a follow-up. I used to do that all the time, and that creates reciprocity. Devin, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for sharing so openly and holding nothing back on the secrets that you shared.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me. And anything you need, your network, my network are all available. And I think it's such a timely and important topic. So don't be scared to ask. And we're all here to help.
Yes, I like this a lot. And I will say on a very personal note, as we wrap up this episode, that the greatest learning, as I've said a number of times now, really is when you have a challenge like the one that I'm experiencing, is you must have people you can lean on, and you must be able to be comfortable and have been honest enough for others to recognize who you really are, because that is what creates that deep desire. And with that, we say goodbye for today. Until next time.
So appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for listening to the entire episode. Please subscribe to the podcast, give us a 5-star review, a comment, and share this episode with one more person so that you can help us help more people. Thank you again. Until next time. Goodbye.